But even though Brother Branham went to Israel, to Cairo, and he was told not to go, anybody could say, as Brother Miguel spoke in these days, hey, after he goes there, he says he's going to, he had a bunch of Bibles made. Anybody would say, hey, the prophet failed, because anybody can say, if he's a prophet, then the things he do, they all have to take place when he says them and how he says them. The responsibility of a prophet is to speak the word. The responsibility of God is to fulfill it. Whether it is in the minute or 40 years from now, he speaks it, and if it's not fulfilled by that messenger, then God fulfills it in another. The responsibility of the prophet is to speak. Whatever form it has to be fulfilled in, after he speaks it, that responsibility remains, see, in the hands of God, of the one who sent him to speak. For example, our responsibility is to make the tent. That is our responsibility. Now, speaking in terms that one can understand, that is, in common terms, God's responsibility, not that we are disrespecting God, but it is the order. For God's responsibility is to bring his presence. That is why Brother Branham, when he talked about that, he was going to come riding in a snow white horse, and we will ride this trail again. Everybody focused that it was him. From the west will come a rider on a white horse. I'll ride that trail again. And everybody focused on Brother Branham. And they said, well, he's going to come back again. And they weren't realizing that it was the ministry that was going to make that ride again, but in another man. And so it was with Brother William. If you notice, the whole trajectory of his message, everything he preached, was for him to fulfill it. Everything. He even went to Israel, indeed. Look, he went there. But he couldn't bring them into the dispensation of grace, which was the dispensation that was in effect. He had to bring them into the dispensation of the kingdom. Let's say he had everything. There was everything there, because it was the angel of the Lord, the angel of Jesus, who was there in him, who is the one that operates the ministries. Therefore, everything was there ready, but the dispensation for which, or to which they were going to be called and gathered and sealed, to bring them into that dispensation, wasn't there. Did God fail? No, he didn't. Because of that which Moses did, then he comes down, which God already had it in his plan. God comes down and raises up another instrument, which is still the same angel of Jesus. And that is where, when that starts to be spoken more clearly, now this one is going to start saying that he is also that scripture. But it is still the same angel of Jesus, the one that has worked in the ages, the angel of the Lord that worked in the Old Testament through the prophets, and then became flesh. In them was that manifestation of the angel of the covenant. And in this time, it is the same angel of Jesus that is working. It is the same one. And to fulfill the full fulfillment of his coming, notice how it says there that it is, to him that overcomes, I will give the morning star. Look where that scripture is fully fulfilled. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. To who is he going to give the morning star? And it is the second coming. Whoever is there ministering, which he says there, the ministry of his second coming, is the one ministering there. And you link this with when he says the morning star is the pillar of fire. Where did the pillar of fire descend to? To which age? To which dispensation? It was there. And he went to a people who were ready, prepared. See, there was first that preparation before entering Jordan. that the people, along with Joshua, were at this time as we are now, in quietness. And apparently nothing is being done. But the greatest work we are doing is with ourselves. It is a work of the most holy place which is not noticed. Only the person who is there is the one who knows what is going on. Only you know what is going on in your heart, because it is you with God. And in the most holy place, everyone was outside and didn't know what the high priest was doing in there. Only the high priest and God knew. And that is what is happening now. Only in the most holy place do we know what is happening there. Those who are going to cross Jordan on dry land, you see? And that preparation that is now being performed in us was not being done before, although it was in part, potentially in 70-something. There was something similar. In other words, it was fulfilled there. Potentially, what was going to happen now in fullness. There it was carried out, if you notice, that it was accomplished. But the reality wasn't there. And what was the reality when the people were prepared, sanctified and all? The transformation. Now, it is the real thing. It is not that they were acting hypocritical there because they did it. Many. Those who were eager for the transformation to be in 77. How many even took their kids out of school? There, they went into fanatism. That is why now you shouldn't take the children out of school. Continue studies and all. But see how it is now that that is fulfilled? The reality of the sanctification. And the reality will be the fulfillment in full when we are transformed. Anyone might say, I'm not going to wait for that. I expect it in my way, and I will get there my way. And he takes a piece of royal palm fiber that is laying around and fabricates a boat, which whatever he can find, and he jumps into Jordan. This is not in the history, but let us make this like, for sure, if I jump in, I will make it. The land is right there, and we are a stone throw away. We jump into this little boat. For sure, they would not make it halfway. They most likely sank, because they tried in their own way, in their way. And so it is now. They are trying to get to the promised land in their own way, and those shortcuts, they are not going to make it. They will not get far. The people is required to be preparing themselves where the pillar of fire is, for the adoption and for the transformation. And the pillar of fire is only in the most holy place. It is neither in the grace, nor is he in the gap, nor is he in the seventh age. Within the cornerstone, there are many of those who have remained in that seventh age, and also in that interlace. Because remember that there is also an interlace. There is a part there that are neither from back then, nor are they from the seventh age, nor are they from the cornerstone. In other words, they were left like in the middle. And they neither tell you that they are from one side, nor tell you that they are from the other. And there, at that time, is where the devil deceives them. And instead of going up, they fall down again to the seventh age, where, let us say, the devil is reigning. Because God always moves out of the seventh age, where then the devil gets in. He can't go up. He is never going to go up to the cornerstone. He stays below. So it is the Laodicean age, speaking as of the ages, as Brother Branham says, that is Satan's throne. And if there is like that, then it also occurs in the other dispensations. Nope, there are no more messengers after Brother William. The same thing was said when Jesus himself said, the prophet prophesied until John. And then Jesus and the apostles had to appear. A lot of them had to appear. And they said, no, that there couldn't be only but 7 dispensational messengers. And if you start adding Peter and you keep adding, when you come to see, the number comes up. God already knows the number and why. And another thing that, notice, that when the pillar of fire descended there, was for the fullness to come to the church. Resurrection, our transformation. But that time in which Brother Branham sees that the pillar of fire descends, because if the pillar of fire descends, that is the one that will fulfill that scripture of, when that persecution comes, don't be afraid. There is a light that will take you, that will rapture us. See? That pillar of fire is coming to do a work. Therefore, there the transformation hadn't happened yet, nor the rapture. But there was a ministry adopted indeed. And like the excerpt I read, see how the adoption is going to start? It has an order and a sequence. For sure, there will be many who will already be prepared and will be adopted as well, because there has to be help with so many people. Then God will go in those days, and the ones who is not ready will be prepared as well. And we are going to be people like that, common people, but with that power inside. Walking among them, no one will notice. It is like when you have within an army spies, let us say. But they are people who are going to be helping that ministry there. Because you need, for a work like that, adopted people, see? And that is what we are here for. Look, what God is doing with His people now is preparing that mighty army for that great event that is going to come, of the crowd and everything, and to give that coup. This is us, give that coup to the kingdom of darkness. When you take away a kingdom, they call it a coup. The same thing He's going to try to do at the end of the millennium. But why is He going to make a coup there? Because He remembers for sure that that is how the kingdom was taken from Him. We are going to strike Him with such a coup that we are going to take away the kingdom of darkness, which is now ruling the kingdom of the Gentiles. It will be taken away. We are going to give them a coup. But how will it be done? With adopted children of God. It has to be a powerful army. It can't be that God has to send angels. No. God works through human beings. You're thinking that God is coming to do something with angels and all that. No, God always worked through human beings, bales of flesh. In other words, there will be little anointed ones. And we say little because we know that there is one great, who is the Lord. But not to minimize, but they are the anointed ones of God, anointed with the Word. That is the one that anoints us. That is why all this that is taking place is so important. That is what is transforming us from the inside. Because if it was around the Word that Abraham and Sarah obtained that rejuvenated body, by elimination, it has to be like that here. It has to be the same way. It has to be around something that is spoken. If it's not spoken, then that cannot be materialized in our hearts, in our lives. When the Archangel Gabriel appeared back then to Mary and told her that the son that was going to be born would be on the throne of David, notice, he spoke the word, and yet that hasn't been fulfilled. But it was spoken. Now, that same thing that was spoken back then by that archangel who wasn't incarnate yet comes now and God speaks it through human mouth. And that is going to be fulfilled soon. In other words, what he spoke back then, now he comes and emphasizes it again. And he comes and he also fulfills that part that he also announced the coming of the Lord. And he left. Now, what will happen to that word that wasn't fulfilled when he was here? Where then is that promised son? No, that it was fulfilled in him. But if it is parallel in everything, you have to look back then, the archangel, and you have to look for his son. If not, then there is something that doesn't add up, and it wouldn't be parallel in everything. There must be a son born through that word for that promise to be fulfilled, and he is the overcomer. And God gives the morning star to him, gives him the fulfillment of the second coming, and that is how God had it in his plan. And his words can't fail. Whether people like it or not, it is his program. And from that point on, there is when that scripture of Psalm is fulfilled. Honor the Son, lest he be angry, and his wrath comes suddenly. It couldn't have been at the first coming, because he came as a lamb. And it didn't refer to that son, see, at his first coming. It refers to the promised son. There when Revelation 12 speaks of the son who is born to the woman, which is the church, that son is the one that comes as the lion. Wrath was indeed there. You would not see wrath in a lamb, but you will in a lion. And now the Gentiles are not going to honor the son, and instead of God having all that time of mercy as it happened back then, the Hebrew people rejected him. But the wrath didn't come there. He came as the lamb to redeem. But now, if they don't honor the Son, now they will not go through all that time again. For now is the wrath of God poured out upon the kingdom of the Gentiles. The same thing that the Hebrew people did, they rejected him. Here the Gentiles reject him, but instead of receiving mercy, they receive judgment. There indeed are fulfilled those words that a blasphemy against the Son of Man at that time was forgiven, but in that day it shall not be forgiven. The same one who said, I am, as Isaiah says, that I am he that does speak. Behold, it is I. Behold, it is I. Of course, we see him present. He is the one who is doing everything. And then afterwards, in each one of us, in all of its fullness. That is why he was saying that we will have that power. Of course, we will. Everyone will have that power. For if he's going to pour himself, did he not pour himself out in tongues of fire, pillars of fire, there on the day of Pentecost? So he's going to pour himself out in all of us, in every one of us. And there is truly a mighty army of the Lion of the tribe of Judah. What God will do in those days will be something glorious. And after 30 to 40 days, with those that are coming, which is a reinforcement, and when that reinforcement comes, then the world will know the power of God manifested in the children of God, led by the ministry that God has there at that time. There is something very great there, because notice, the blessing that has fallen upon us, we still don't know even a little bit of how great you and I are in the divine program. That he has been pleased with people like us, that we are not even worthy, but he has made us worthy. And he has been pleased to dwell in our hearts. He's already doing it, because he is the Word. If he wasn't so, he would be jealous and say, no, I'm not going to speak this to them. Why don't many receive him? I say many because there are many. We receive him, and many also receive him. But why do some not receive him? Because they are not worthy to receive God, because God is Word. And you may say, no, how can it be? I have God in my heart. And why do you reject him? Do you also see the way to reject God? God is Word, and if you don't receive that Word, to top it up, some have already said that all that knowledge poisons me or pollutes me, something like that. Imagine to be saying to God, the creator of heavens and earth, that he's a poisoner. They are lacking understanding to speak to God like that. And these things make the Son angry because of that kind of stuff. That is why at some point the time will come when the word will be spoken and things will be happening. Because there are times when one says, look, enough is enough. But there will come a time when enough is enough, and that is when you will see who is in the midst of the people.